Welcome back, rankers. Sorry, someone dared me to do that, so I just had to do it. But I don't think it went that well, so I'm going to just do it again. Welcome back, rankers. On the news this week is Google News. What do I mean by that? Well, if you've used Google News, try saying that 3 times quickly, you will know that you typically will go there if you want to find news-related items. I found it to be quite buggy over the years, and things can disappear that used to be in the news that were no longer in the news, and that's probably just an indexing problem that Google has with the sites that had the original news items. But what I wanted to show you today, this is a client of ours, and they are a news-related site. And by news-related, I mean that they publish stories and articles in a particular segment of the market, which I can't tell you what it is, or else we'd have to kill you all. But you can see here, back when we launched the site, we got it ranking quite well organically for the search terms that it was writing about in its stories. And then we got it ranked in Google News around here. And you can see how the traffic spike went from about 1,300 a day to nearly 5,000. And then last week, they wrote a story which ranked 10,000. And they typically will rank number 1, number 2, and sometimes number 1 and number 2 for the phrases that are key to the stories that they're writing about. Sorry to be so vague. This is really important if you're in the news business. And this is a site that, of course, the business model is advertising, like most news sites, unless you're an Australian Financial Review or a Wall Street Journal paywall subscriber. But they rely on advertising revenue, so this traffic to their site from users is really, really important, like it is to most of us, but in their case, impressions are key. There's a couple of things that you need to do to get ranked in Google News. The first one is you need to be approved by Google. Yes, I know. So this is Google actually sitting down and someone looking at the site and saying, yes, that is a news-related site. Now, if you're a blogger, you can still be a news-related site, but you're going to have to be updating regularly. You're going to have a bit of kudos. You're going to have a little bit of authority around the content that you're writing about and making sure that you're updating all the time. Google isn't going to exclude you if you're not a member of some journalists association or anything like that. That's not what it's about. It's about Google providing accurate news-related content in this section of their search engine. The other thing that you're going to have to do is to have a sitemap that is configured for Google News, which is slightly different to your normal sitemap. But the third thing that we didn't know about, and it took us a little while, as you can see here, to get ranked in Google News, and Google came back and told us this, is they said, hey, can you get the date of the news story actually in the URL? And I'll show you what I mean. And as soon as we did that, bang, the site went to number 1 for its related news terms. And if we go and have a look at today's news, and I'll show you that date and the URL in a second. Look, and if you have a WordPress site and you're a blogger, you can do this very easily as well. But I just want to show you, we'll do a search here. This is organic, and I'm pointing at the screen. I hope you can see that. And the search I've done here is Stephen Conroy NBN debate. And the reason will become apparent why I have searched for that phrase. For those of you who haven't been following the show at home, Stephen Conroy is our communications minister who was locked out of his iPhone by his 3-year-old. And he's now spending $50 billion on a national network. That's taxpayers' money, that's not his own. So, there's the search, Stephen Conroy NBN debate, and we've got some news stories here. We've got, usual suspects. Then if we go into Google News, and this is one of the recent changes that Google has made, which I think is a little annoying. I'd like to hear what you think. And that is if I just go and click on News, what used to happen, it would carry my search phrase and it would stick it in News. Now, all it does is it deletes that search phrase and just gives me the top headlines. And if I want to then go and search that phrase, I've actually got to put it in there, Stephen Conroy NBN debate. But before I do that, you can see that Stephen Conroy is the number 1 result for trending news. That's all news in Australia at the moment. And the reason for that is because he said a rude word on national television, live television, so they couldn't bleep it out. And that was the big story, which I was kind of happy about because I think most of what comes out of his mouth most of the time is, you know, well, I don't want to drop a rude word on this show because we're above that. We're better than the ABC here. But anyway, he dropped the F-bomb on live news, and you can see that's what all these stories are talking about. He was talking about the National Broadband Network, but of course none of the stories are about that. They're about him swearing, except there are a couple of exceptions. And of course, friend of the show, is he here? Oh, gee, it was here earlier. Friend of the show, delimiter Rene Lemay. Is he here? He's dropped off. Now, half an hour ago when I looked at this, Rene Lemay from delimiter.com.au, which is a great technology news site, was ranking for the news around Stephen Conroy, to the point where one of the images, or several of the images, were actually from Delimiter. And the reason for that is because the story was fresh. Well, now it seems that there are, and you can see here, we've got things where Google's saying this one is highly cited. That basically means there's a lot of people linking to it. Or there's a lot of people, going too far, there's a lot of people linking to it, therefore it's going to rank higher. Google thinks it's probably the most important because there's a lot of reputable links out there to this specific story, not the site. But the disappearance of Delimiter is mystifying because they wrote a story about the National Broadband Network and Stephen Conroy's speech. They didn't talk about him swearing. But everybody's talking about Stephen Conroy swearing, so where's the Delimiter story gone? It's disappeared. So then if I go and type in, well, I was going to type in before, which was Stephen Conroy NBN debate, and we'll see what the stories are specifically around that in Google News. Well, we can see Delimiter's here, and it says, Google's saying it's 5 days ago. That's not correct. And yet it's still ranking at number 2. If it really was 5 days ago, Google wouldn't be... well, actually, when you look at the results here, Google probably would, because you can see here all the dates. They're in pretty much ascending order, all the time releases. So these are all time sensitive. 2 hours ago, 5 days ago, 2nd of December, and on it goes. All these images, well, sorry, 3 of these images over here, though, are from Delimiter. But even though Delimiter wrote a story about about the Senator Conroy's speech, he didn't get ranked in breaking news, or he's disappeared from it now, because the big story of the day is Senator Conroy swearing. And that Google will get that from the content of the other news stories that have been linked to. And if everybody's talking about that Senator Conroy swore, and you're not, and, well, it seems that the trend is about that. So Google is going to report on that story. And that's how Google has evolved its news algorithm. Incidentally, in case you're wondering why I have such contempt for Stephen Conroy, ironically, he wants to censor the internet and protect us all from the nasty filth that's on it. But let's face it, you can get it on the TV for free on ABC, the taxpayer-funded channel. Hopefully that's helpful. We'll see you next week. Thanks very much. Bye.